live here on Facebook, like the those listening in podcast land. And, I guess you're welcoming me into your home?
I guess so. Every once in a while we have these types of episodes. So as always, when we have these types of episodes, we are going with just a computer mic.
Yep.
Mic, so sound quality, not the best, but
not on par with our normal, but whatever. We make it work.
Yeah. So Mike, you're up here in the Quad Cities.
Down here in the Quad Cities.
Down here, up here, it's all the same. I guess not, but yeah. How was your week?
So far it's been great. It was got a little chaotic there, but it's going good. We're hanging in there.
Good.
Came down yesterday, took a nice relaxing drive down, and got in early afternoon, and just gonna hang out for the weekend, and then head back home tomorrow evening.
Evening. So are you gonna get a chance to watch the entire race before you hit the road, or are you gonna be listening to the back half on the radio?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
When we get into that portion of the show, but it's gonna be a great weekend, and we're gonna have a good time. So but we're here together. So how was your again 4-day work week?
It was good. I got one more left before the calendar turns to March and it goes into a new fiscal year for me.
Yeah.
So one more week of short weeks, and that's pretty much about it. Not much new here. Just hanging out.
Yeah. So we got a good show for you today. We are officially heading into the NASCAR corner for the first actual points race of the year.
That's right, because the running of the Daytona 500 is Sunday.
We actually missed a kind of points race as well.
We did.
I'll explain it when we get to it.
All right.
There's something new this year that I didn't realize until Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. And in addition to the NASCAR corner, we got to recap the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that happened.
And baseball's back.
Baseball's back. And then finally, we have, I think, we might talk other football if we get to it.
If we get to it.
We've been kicking that can down the road for a while, but it's
just spring football, though. It's just spring football, but there are details to talk about.
But don't you remember? Haven't you seen the commercials? This is going to be the greatest spring football you've ever seen.
All that and more, Mike. But what do we got to do first?
We got to roll the intro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.
We normally don't get to hear that when we play it.
At least you do. You do, don't you?
No.
Okay.
Like I just watch. So when I'm at home, I use software that lets us broadcast, mix the sound a little bit better, do some other things. But in doing that, I just watch the bar move, and I don't get to hear anything.
Oh, okay. So you watch the bar move on the intro, so you know when it ends, but you don't actually hear the audio.
I don't hear any of it.
See, I thought it was just me.
No.
That's why you always have to be the one to bring us back.
Nope.
Because I don't know when it ends.
Nope. I just watch the bar that tells me when it's over. But but before we get into sports and the week and all of that stuff, we have a poll question to talk about. Rich, what was this week's poll question?
This week's poll question was, how do you like your breakfast burritos or tacos? And we had the split it 3 ways. And we went with sausage, bacon, or chorizo. Before we get into how the poll went, Mike, where did you vote?
I voted for the only one that actually is worthy of being in a burrito or a taco.
Okay.
Chorizo.
All right. I went with chorizo as well when we've been down in Texas. One of our favorite places to go and get tacos, even breakfast tacos, is Torchy's Tacos, and I always manage to order one with chorizo in it. but maybe the votes went the way that they did because most places, whether they're fast food or whether they're sit-down restaurants, most of them it's sausage or bacon or both. And we didn't give the option for all three, like an all three meat burrito.
I mean, sausage and bacon are delicious, but when you're talking tacos or burritos, don't you want like the original, like what goes in it? Like if you were to go to a Hispanic restaurant for breakfast, wouldn't you want that? Which would be chorizo. That's why I voted for it.
All right, Mike. So chorizo did not win out, as you can tell by the way Mike and I have talked about it. But joining Mike and I were my brother Josh, Ashley Lindquist, and my brother-in-law Josh Couture. Bacon also got 5 votes, so thanks for voting Jordan Stroop, Cameron Tripp, Ron Lehmans, Amy Hendricks, my wife, and Nathan Ross. Now, Ron did put a comment on it, and he said bacon, but with sausage gravy.
With gravy. He didn't say sausage gravy, but he said bacon with gravy, which, that's fine. I
don't know if I've ever seen a breakfast burrito
with gravy in it.
With the gravy inside of it.
I'm guessing that you could probably get that at Casey's. They probably do that for people because they have the gravy that they put in they do biscuits and gravy, or you can get gravy on your breakfast burrito or your breakfast pizza. There's the gravy and then there's the cheese style.
Well, maybe you're getting it. Maybe you're getting that said burrito from Casey's with a side of the sausage gravy to dip it inside.
Either way, I've never had it that way. That actually doesn't sound terrible, but
I'd like to give our winner.
The winner is sausage. Pam Hendricks, Sue Hart, both our moms, by the way. That's each respectively. Matt Johnson, Danielle Hart, David Enfield, and Mark Hendricks. So both your parents are sausage people on this one.
I guess so.
Are they? Now, as people get older, and we all are a Midwest show for the most part. Most of our people that participate are Midwesterners. Is the problem that chorizo is too spicy?
It could be, but once again, I think it just comes down to
availability.
Yeah. If you go to a McDonald's, a Hardee's, your fast food, it's a sausage breakfast burrito. You normally don't have a choice. If you get a breakfast burrito, it's going to be sausage.
And if you do get a choice, it's normally bacon or sausage, or both bacon and sausage. But chorizo's not a regular one. So yeah, I can kind of understand it, but chorizo is the best. So
sausage will move on against our wishes, but it moves on. And we'll just have to accept the results because the people have spoken.
11 people are wrong on this. 5 people are right. Okay, Rich, we're back to cereal this week. What are our options for this week's poll question?
This week, Mike, we're going to go Reese's Puffs against honeycombs.
I always think that there's going to be a landslide in some of these, and they always end up a lot closer. To me, it's hard to imagine that there wouldn't be a landslide in this. But every time I say that, the one that I think should be the landslide ends up what I think underperforming, and the other one does better. Doesn't always mean that I'm wrong in which one wins, but it's rarely a landslide. So it'll be interesting to see how our fan base votes this week.
All right, so I'll probably get that up shortly after we go off of air this morning. So, Mike, next we're going to go into and talk about the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And because our NFL sessions have run long, and we've had to condense almost our entire NASCAR preview into this week's episode.
Yep.
We have a 15-minute time limit to talk the NFL. So I'm going to start the timer now.
Okay.
All right, Mike. So what was the score of the game?
So in overtime, Rich, I want to remind everybody, you picked the 49ers.
I did.
I picked the Chiefs. In overtime, the Chiefs won 25-22.
That's right. So, Mike, it was a great game. I was not upset about the result one way or the other.
Right. I think this game was played in a way that either team winning, the officials never got really never interfered in something enough that people can say, well, the refs gave it to, or it was a clean game.
It was.
It was the cleanest game. I think this might have been, like, yes, there were penalties, but overall, this might have been one of the cleanest games I've seen in years, just in general, let alone being a Super Bowl game where all eyes are on it. This was probably the best game that the NFL itself could have asked for, as they just want something clean and not to have to deal with controversy at the end of a game. And I think they got it.
Yep. So I put a note in here that the Cousins curse lives on, as I made reference to the earlier in an earlier episode, saying that no team that loses to Kirk Cousins in the regular season ends up winning the Super Bowl in the same year.
Yeah.
It lives on. We'll have to see if the Cousins curse comes into play in next year's Super Bowl.
According to Dan Campbell, it might.
It might.
Because Dan Campbell said we're going to the Super Bowl next year.
And they got to play Kirk Cousins.
And they got to play him twice. So if
assuming that he re-signs in Minnesota.
Yeah, I can't imagine that he wouldn't at this point. But crazier things have happened. That's a whole off-season away before we get to talking about it. We have plenty of other stuff to talk about between now and then.
So, Mike, you get a free lunch.
Yep.
So just some questions that come out of this Super Bowl here. Do you think the Chiefs can three-peat? It's really early. We don't know how the free agent market's going to shake out. We don't know how the draft is going to impact.
The scariest thing is,
can they three-peat?
Do they have the ability? Yes. The biggest scary thing is, I look at the NFC and I mean, at this point, the Chiefs are the favorite to make it back to the Super Bowl. They just are. Overall, they have to be the favorite to get back to the Super Bowl right now. So I would say, yes, they can get back. But you look at the Lions. You look at, heck, even the Packers and the Niners again.
Mm-hmm.
All three of those teams in the NFC right now, those are scary teams.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I think the matchup's going to be tough. But if we've learned anything over the last couple of the last 5 years, it's hard to you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. You learned three times this year.
I did.
Don't bet against Patrick Mahomes.
I did.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, I think they can.
All right, I would agree with it. I think that they can make the playoffs.
Oh, easily.
I think it's looking at their division. You got a Raiders team that still kind of got to build things up. Can the Antonio Pierce interim coach bump continue on now that he's got the full-time job?
Yep.
I think the Jim Harbaugh's Chargers will be better with him as coach, but they still.
But again,
they're a salary cap.
We also talk about that it takes 2 to 3 years for a coach.
Yeah.
For a coach to take a position and make it happen.
And the Broncos still have some work.
The Broncos are only 1 year in.
But I think that they have a harder path to get back to the Super Bowl than the Niners, because you got Baltimore.
Yeah.
You have Joe Burrow's going to be back with the Bengals under center, but they could lose they could be losing T. Higgins.
I mean, you gotta look at a team that I hate. You gotta look at the Browns too.
Yeah.
The Browns, they made the playoffs losing 3 quarterbacks this year.
Yep.
You can't,
could they finally figure out how to keep Deshaun Watson healthy and how to best utilize his skill set within their offense?
I hope not. I hate that team. They deserve to be where they're at. But, I think they do have a much harder time getting back to the Super Bowl. But I think overall you can't bet against them.
Okay.
And so I think they're now in the Chicago Bulls 1998-99 season, where was it the 99 season, definitely, where it's, we just got to get into the playoffs. Once we get into the playoffs, we'll show you what we're all about. We don't care. Our record doesn't matter as long as we get to the playoffs, because once we get to the playoffs, we know we're going to beat you.
Yeah.
That's all they got to do. That's what they did this year. That's why people were like, oh, they're not. I think a lot of
That's why I picked against them 3 straight times. They limped into the playoffs.
And I think they did. I mean, truthfully, if you look at it, I'm guessing a lot of those teams looked at it as almost like it turned into a trap game. How you can ever call a game against Patrick Mahomes a trap game, I'll never understand. But when you go into 3 straight games with them being called the quote-unquote underdog, with them being the guys that you have to deal with, and yet they come out and play like they should play, even though they didn't their whole year, how do you not say that they're all they need to do is get into the playoffs? So
exactly. But I mean, I think that there is, I think maybe turning into, I think their championship window is always going to be open as long as number 15 is under center. But there's already the talk out there, like you were made reference to Andy Reid. Is he going to retire on the podium?
I really thought he was going to, because the way that he refused to interview
and talk about
interview right away as soon as, because if you look, I don't remember who the sideline reporters are for CBS. It's crazy. We'll get to the CBS coverage because I want to talk about that a little bit. But I didn't know who the sideline were. They had him there, and he said, "Nope, I'll talk to you on the podium."
Okay.
And he refused to do it. And I'm like, is that a case of he's going to be like, I'm going to go out on top, I'm going to be the best, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And you've already got Travis Kelce saying, if you retire, I'm retiring because I'm not going to play for anybody else but Andy Reid.
Yeah. And so that team, Andy Reid retires, that team looks completely different.
Exactly. Because means their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, he's up there in age too. He's not. And he's in his 60s. He's in his 60s too.
But he could get plucked.
He's now the highest paid coordinator in football. With he re-signed a new contract. Nobody plucked him, and
they tried.
Yeah, I don't think he had any interviews this cycle. But I thought your offensive coordinator's Matt Nagy. Maybe you bring back Eric Bieniemy since he's unemployed in some role, so maybe one of them takes over when and if Andy Reid retires, or you get the situation where replacing a legend is just too much, and somebody's got to do it. So one of his assistants takes the job, gets 1 or 2 years, and it just isn't the same, and they cut bait and go in a whole different direction.
Are you predicting what's happening in New England the next few years?
I don't think so.
So let's.
I didn't, or if I am, I didn't mean to.
We got a couple other things we got to talk about for the Super Bowl. We're a little over halfway through our time, so let's get to some of the other stuff we want to talk about. One, commercials. Always a big talking point. Favorite commercial?
I'm gonna have to go with the BMW ad with Christopher Walken.
Okay, I like that one a lot. My favorite. And I'm not saying I cried, but I might have been cutting onions like 6 weeks ago, and it finally hit me when the Kia commercial with Grandpa not being at the thing, and the electric car and plugging it in so little girl can do her figure skating in front of Grandpa. Okay. The onions might have gotten me from 6 weeks ago. It wasn't the commercial didn't make me. But then my favorite, and mostly because of the song, the BMW or the Volkswagen commercial. With Neil Diamond singing I Am, I Said. If you're watching or listening, comment below and let us know what your favorite Super Bowl commercial was. Yeah,
I also liked what FanDuel did as a follow-up to the Gronk making the field goal, bringing back, having in memory of Carl Weathers, who was in the ad and sadly passed away before the commercial folded.
I didn't know he was going to be on it. In the commercial.
They prepped it saying, let's give you another chance. I never connected the dice that the individual that was training Gronk was Carl Weathers.
Yeah. That hit too. That hit hard. I was a little bummed about that.
All right.
And then finally, let's talk about coverage. Like overall. So first of all, I said it earlier, but when was the last time any NFL game went this clean from the officiating crew?
Mm-hmm.
They did miss a couple calls. They missed some spot calls, but nothing that was egregious or changed the outcome of the game. Other than that, the game itself was just clean. Yeah. Like this might have been the perfect game for the NFL. Because the last few years you've been hearing all about, the script. It's the script, the NFL scripted, and it's blah blah. This game if it's scripted, their actors are everybody on that field deserves an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody from the officiating crew all the way through to Jim Nance and Tony Romo. Everybody deserves an Oscar if it's scripted. It was amazing to me. I can't speak highly enough for the officiating crew.
Did you watch it, or did you see any of the highlights that involved Nickelodeon's telecast with SpongeBob?
No.
I've seen a couple of the highlights, and I gotta admit, it might have been a little fun to watch it. Maybe a little bit. They had.
I've watched regular season games of the Nickelodeon broadcast, and I liked it. I totally could see how it would be fun.
I mean, they had the voice actors for SpongeBob and Patrick live in the booth.
So Domer?
Yeah, you had Dauber from Coach.
From Coach. Man, I love
those two were in the booth calling it. It wasn't pre-recorded dialogue from them to throw into.
So they called the game?
They actually were there in the booth calling the game with Nate Burleson, and I think it was Iron Eagle.
I really want to see.
There were some highlights of it. Look for it on YouTube.
I want to know if I can find the entire thing.
They were there, and they had a green screen behind them, but they had a special camera on their faces so that their dialogue and facial expressions could be expressed on the cartoon characters that came across.
Similar to what they do, when you use a Facebook filter.
Yeah,
that's totally awesome.
And they had Sandy Squirrel on the sideline as the sideline reporter, and Dora the Explorer was the rules expert.
I knew Dora was in it. That part, I'm not a big fan of Dora, but
it was fun. I guess the one I saw was she explained what holding is, and it's all together now. Players no hold. Players no hold.
Okay, now I really want.
It had some neat moments.
NFL Network. I know you're not watching this, but NFL Network. If you are watching this, anybody at the NFL Network, you need to put that on as. Honestly,
you can finally find it on Paramount Plus, the one streaming service that probably nobody has.
But if you're gonna do it, if you put it on NFL Network, even if you put it on tomorrow, I don't know,
Super Bowl as a rebroadcast.
Yeah, as a rebroadcast next week or something some random week. What other sports are people watching right now? Do you want to watch the Tiger Woods golf tournament going on this weekend?
Well, we got NASCAR this week.
We got NASCAR this week, but most of the country doesn't watch it now.
Okay. One final question, Mike, because we're under 2 minutes on our 15-minute time period.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Niners made the right decision to take the ball first?
So, maybe he's just explaining it away.
Mm-hmm.
But have you heard what Kyle Shanahan said?
Yes. He said that we wanted the ball third.
Right. And that's because it's sudden death. As soon as both teams possess the ball, it is instantly sudden death. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
In the same reason that not even the old school, when you and I were kids, when you go back to that, it was sudden death. That was it, period. Sudden death immediately, you don't go. And so you always wanted the ball. You always wanted the opportunity to score. If they get the touchdown, Kansas City gets the touchdown. Now it's sudden death. All you got to do is kick a field goal.
However,
I think it's a great move. But
however, that's how I viewed it too. If you get the touchdown, you're putting pressure on the other team to know what they have to get to their match. But the one thing that I never thought of until I heard it, because this was a main topic of discussion on talk radio, was that, even if you score the touchdown, if you're going for the win and know that you're probably not going to get that ball back, if you score the touchdown, more than likely, aren't you going to go for two and go for that win? Because you probably know you're not going to get that ball back for a second time.
You do, but again, you're putting pressure on them to have to go for the 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
So you're forcing them to go for 2 points. And if they go for 2 points, you can win the game right there.
Yeah. So I still liked knowing that the defense was gassed from allowing that go-ahead field goal to send the game into overtime. I think he made the right call, But of course, when you come out on the losing end, the story that everyone's going to talk about is you made the wrong call.
Did anybody say they made the wrong call in the moment?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I think that to me is what really calls it and makes that answer. One last topic. We're going to talk about. We're barely going to touch about this. There was a tragedy at the end of the parade. There was a shooting that happened. From everything I've seen, it seems like some guys got in an argument and somebody just was stupid and pulled out a gun and started shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like a premeditated random act of violence. It seems like a truly random act of violence between two people.
It just happened to be in the vicinity of where the victory parade or celebration was going on.
From what, and I can't imagine, like, with security at those things, you can't imagine, like, I don't know how it ended up that way. It's crazy, but man, there were great stories to come out of it. Players stepping up, helping people that they never knew. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they said that he's a hero. When you read the story, he just made sure the kid was taken care of. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, in a situation like that, making sure a kid's taken care of is a heroic action. Does that make you a hero? No. But he did what he had to do. He didn't jump in front of bullets. No, he didn't do any of that. He didn't use his body to guard anybody. But he helped a kid just calm down.
Yep. But there were other stories of players, maybe not the well-known players that you know, off of that roster,
doing stuff, and
linemen, I think the punter did something to where just stayed in the area, calming people down, just hanging out with them in that tough situation.
Yeah. And we've seen players donate to auctions to help victims.
Yeah, I think already, like, it was Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift had donated $100,000 to one of the victims to the family of one of the victims that sadly passed away because of the incident.
So it's crazy, and you're right. You know what? That's like you and me donating $100. Tay-Tay is worth $1 billion plus. Like, it's for them, it's a drop in the bucket, but.
For the family plan an unexpected funeral and maybe have
some other expenses
recover from that.
So $100,000 is going to go a long way to help families out, and But okay, right, let's move on.
Yep. Before we move on into the NASCAR corner, Mike, we do got some homework for you next week.
Okay.
Power rankings.
Okay.
Pre-draft and free agency with the way the playoffs sorted itself out and some coaching changes. That can somewhat make the difference for a team. We're just going to do our eye tests, top 10, bottom 5.
Okay, that works. I can do that
next week. So
I got my top 5 picked, so then it's just sorting that. And that second 5 is the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom 5 generally plays out pretty easily, but
we'll give you that before we close the book on the NFL.
Yep.
Before maybe a couple weeks for the draft, we'll get back into the NFL. But for now, one more week of NFL talk, and then we kind of put them on the back burner more in the quick hits section.
Well, one thing that I forgot to bring with me when I came down is I forgot to bring our prop bet sheet.
Yes.
So we'll do that next week as well. We'll make sure to get that. I have it. I have everything ready to go. We'll talk about that next week.
All right.
Rich, do you see what's coming up next?
I don't, Mike. What's that?
It's a left turn. And after that, Rich?
Well, is it another left turn?
It is. Why is that, Rich?
Well, Mike, because we're going to go into the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. They're in Moline, Illinois, down on 5th Avenue, or you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated.
So this week, we have the entirety of our NASCAR preview because we've been talking football so much that we got to get into all of the NASCAR stuff. So we'll try to get through. We're going to do our best to get through everything. We'll put this 15-minute timer on again.
I don't know. Okay.
We'll do a 15-minute timer on it. It's fine.
All right. So, Mike, originally I had in here for trying to span it across 3 weeks.
Yep.
But we had to condense it into one, so I did end up eliminating like a track preview of new tracks. So we'll kind of talk about each track on a week-to-week basis.
I mean, the biggest thing we wanted to talk about in that is that they're coming to Iowa.
Yeah.
They're going to be in Newton. The tickets sold out in like 2 hours.
Yeah, so there is talk that maybe they open up some additional seating. So maybe there's a second chance to get tickets to that race.
You could.
Maybe.
So I've been, have you've driven by the track, right?
I have.
You could almost sit on the interstate and watch it. It's pretty close to being able to do that. For me, the thing that would be amazingly cool to do is drive by during the race, because that just would be crazy because you'd hear the so that'd be cool. But other than that, that's the biggest track we wanted to talk about. There we go. We talked about it. Let's get
we did cover that pretty extensively when the news broke that they had announced that.
By the way, not that I want to bring it back up, but who called that a week before
you did
it came out? Yes, I did.
All right, but one thing we are going to cover from our for our NASCAR preview is new drivers getting new rides. Yeah. So, Mike, why don't you take the first two?
Okay, so Tony Stewart and Stewart Haas Racing, they're like basically their entire team has flipped.
Yeah, they returned two drivers, and Ryan Pierce and Chase Biscoe, but they got two. Who are their two new teammates?
Two new drivers. The number 4, Kevin Harvick, retired, and Eric Almirola left the team. I don't know. I think he got a job elsewhere, but I don't remember all the way. But we now have Josh Berry and Noah Gragson. Yeah. Josh Berry in the 4, Noah Gragson in the 10.
All right. The other teams that got some new drivers, next team that got new drivers was Rick Ware Racing. The number 15 racing machine was primarily piloted by J.J. Yehling last year. This year, it's still going to be a shared ride, but you're going to see Chaz Granala, Riley Herbst, and possibly Cody Ware in that machine. And then the 51 was actually piloted by Cody Ware, and it's now going to be Justin Haley, who came over from Colin Racing.
But didn't Cody Ware have an incident last year?
I think he did.
Basically caused him to come out of that chair that he had. And the question was, is his dad going to continue to have a team, or is his dad just going to fold the team and sell the charters and let him go? Looks like he's going to keep him and only use his son sparingly to hopefully not spark controversy.
I guess so. Mike, what's the next team that's got some new drivers?
Kulig Racing. The number 16 last year was AJ Allmendinger the whole year. This year, it's going to be a shared ride. Mm-hmm. AJ Allmendinger, Josh Williams, Shane Van Ginsberg, which is exciting to get the Aussie here on a semi-normalness. And probably in the next few years, you're going to see him get a full-time ride. Yeah.
So AJ Allmendinger is going to go back to racing full-time in Xfinity.
Yep.
But coming up for select races along with SVG.
Yeah.
And Josh Williams. So that's a kind of a partnership between Trackhouse and Colin to get Shane Van Ginsberg in more races. Yep. So it won't be quite a full-time race for Van Ginsbergen, as he'll also get to drive some races in the 91 Trackhouse car as well. Mike, who's the other Colin Racing?
So Justin Haley is no longer going to be driving for Colin Racing. Instead, we're going to see Daniel Hemrick.
All right. Legacy Motor Club has one change for the drivers, as the number 42 car goes from Noah Gregerson over to John Hunter Nemechek. But the big change for Legacy is that they are now going from Chevy to Toyota.
And I don't know about modern day. Mm-hmm. And it is in modern day. Modern day Toyota actually builds your engines for you. Okay. You don't have to have an engine builder on staff. They have guys, they provide the engines, and they do all the work for you. You just slap it in your car. It used to be the Toyota provided everything. Toyota has now backed off a little bit. They provided the body guys, everything. You just basically had to pay them, and then they did 90% of the work for you, which was nice. But just even if it's just an engine builder, that's a huge move for them. Jimmy Johnson going to be in a Toyota for the first time in his career.
Yeah. More on that later with Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah.
And finally, Spire Motorsports. The number 77 will go from Ty Dillon to Carson Hocharver, who did a lot of races for last year as a fill-in driver when Noah Gregerson got suspended. And also in a joint partnership between Spire and Trackhouse, you're going to see a new car out on the track this year, the number 71, which will be Zane Smith.
Yeah. And then finally, we talked about Trackhouse using or sharing Van Ginsberg as well with Kulig Racing. But it looks like he is also going to be running the 91 Trackhouse. He's only going to be the only one, as Kimi Räikkönen isn't going to be racing this year.
He might be.
He might, but currently not planned. So, okay. Rich, any of those moves that you like a lot? Any that you are concerned about? Any that you don't like?
Man, I was kind of sad to see the Dinger go down to a more of a part-time role.
Yeah.
I liked him in the car as a full-time driver last year, but it kind of was evident that he really wasn't that much of a threat.
Yeah.
On the oval track layouts, but you had to pick him.
Yeah.
As a legitimate chance to win it on a road course.
Every road course. And I'm guessing he's going to be racing road courses. But it makes it so that the hard part is it makes one less car that will be competing for the championship.
That's right.
Which
it does.
I have a problem with that. Because if we're saying that the championship is the ultimate thing, then you have, we talked about 5 different cars that have guys that are part-timers that are going to run the whole season.
So are you saying that even if it was a Dinger or SVG, won a points race that would normally put the number 16 car in the playoffs?
I believe that they won't, because
no, they won't.
It has to be a full-time driver.
Yeah. Also, in your situation, saying, you know what, the 16 should get to be in the playoff field. What do you do if Allmendinger wins one of those races? And
I don't think he should.
If SVG wins a race in the same car?
I just don't like. I don't like having cars that aren't competing for championship. If we're saying that the championship, so NASCAR a bunch of years back went from focused on racing on races to focused on championships. That's what the playoffs were all about. It was to make the championship matter more. So if that's what our focus is, shouldn't we say, no, you can't these one-offs, maybe one-offs for certain races, but to have a car that's racing full-time in a year.
But having a different driver almost every week?
Yeah. That I have a problem with. So, again, it's one of those small little things. I understand why Cody Ware still has a job. Because daddy can't fire your son, necessarily. But maybe, just maybe, that's what a kid needs. When my daughter does something crazy, and I have to spank her, because I do have to spank her once in a while, that makes her a better kid. She gets consequences for her actions. Yeah, he got suspended a bit last year. And yeah, he's down to a part-time ride. But does he care? He still has all the money that he wants. He still has all that other stuff. Now the pressure's off. And they're hoping, my guess is, they're hoping he's going to fly under the radar and not really make waves when it comes time for all the other stuff.
And then maybe the other drivers in that ride will do well enough that another team will scoop him up, and then they can put Ware back in as the full-time driver.
Yeah. That's the scary thing for me, and it seems like less of a punishment and more of a, this is how we get you back in racing without anybody getting angry about it. And I don't like that. So, whatever. That's kind of where it is. Your dad's the owner. You're going to get there eventually. Fine, whatever. Rich, so I did mention previously, first we have to do preseason cup winner.
Yep. Got to do it.
I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin. He hasn't won one yet. He is hungry.
Okay.
And he's already started the year off with a win, even though it's not a points win and doesn't do anything for him. He came out to say, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, but getting that win in the Busch Class at the Coliseum. It worked for Joey Logano as he was the points champion. He ended up being the champion in the year that he won the Busch Class. And Martin Truex at least made it to the round of 4, and he won it the year that he won the Clash.
We don't have a lot of time left for NASCAR, but Martin Truex is one of those drivers that he regularly makes it into that top 4, but doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's one of the most underrated racers in NASCAR. And I think that should change. But I'm still going to pick Denny Hamlin. Rich, who you got?
I'm going to go with William Byron.
Not Ross Chastain?
Not Ross Chastain.
Okay.
So you can't always pick your favorite driver.
But I did.
I know. So
but
I'm going to go with William Byron.
I genuinely think Denny Hamlin's actually looking to make this the year that he does it. So
the reason that I'm going with William Byron is Toyota and Ford will have new bodies on the cars, so I think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment period for those drivers to get everything dialed in as the season goes on. And Hendrick Motorsports has a lot of resources. And so I think Byron made it to the top 4 last year, I think it was.
Yep.
So I think he gets him over the hump and gets a championship for Rick Hendrick.
I don't think that's a bad pick. Now let's go to the Daytona 500.
Yes.
And we get to make our picks. First pick of the year, I'm going to go with getting to say something we haven't gotten to say much over the last couple of years.
All right.
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Oh, great. So, like always, we do with I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek.
Okay.
He's also with Jimmy Johnson's
Legacy
Motor Club. And looking back, although it's hard to always pick a winner for Daytona, because anything can happen. Anything happens. So this is like a race where anybody has a shot to win. I'm going to go with Nemechek because the last time he was full-time in the Cup, which was 2020, he finished 11th there in both the spring and the fall race. So.
It's a good pick there. Reminder, I do have 1 point already, even though we didn't have a race other than the Busch Classic. I picked the winner there.
You did.
I also mentioned that we had points races.
Okay.
Did you know that the dual 150s counted as stage points for the championship?
I did not know that. I thought that it was that the duels were just to determine the starting order of the Daytona 500.
No, you the top, just like in a race, the top 10 got stage points for the win. Or the top 10 position. So, one final thing with NASCAR. Rich, we do it every year.
We do.
We got fantasy. Keeps you interested. Rich was not... I'm not going to say you weren't a NASCAR fan. No, I'm going to say it. You were not a NASCAR fan when we started the show. Doing the show so it helped you get into a little bit. But what really hooked you was that fantasy NASCAR, I think.
It was. Being able to watch the race. And it gives you, for me, as not a diehard NASCAR fan. I think I've become a diehard NASCAR
fan. You have.
Fan
You really have. I mean, you've gone to a race.
I have.
And anyway.
But the fantasy NASCAR, the way you played the game, we'll have the link to you can join our specific league through NASCAR.com in the comments section of the video here. But basically, when you're filling out your roster, you're choosing 6 drivers. You have 5 in your active lineup, 1 in the garage. And at any point during the race, between the first and before the start of the third stage, you can elect to move your garage driver into the starting lineup. And then once the third stage starts, your lineup locks.
Yep.
You can't make any changes, even if one of your 5 active drivers gets wrecked out.
Yep. So it's a great way to play. It's good. It's fun. You also pick between heads up drivers. You have a bunch of different guys that do heads up driving against each other, and so if you go in and you pick those, you get to pick who you want to do.
Who do you think is going to basically finish higher in the race between 2 specific drivers?
Yep. Which will be
change every single week.
Yep.
But
So
those are just bonus points.
hey, bonus points are points.
They are.
So with that, Rich, you want to make it?
What?
Let's head out of the NASCAR corner.
Okay.
Presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. From Left Turns, we still make left turns as we talk baseball as pitchers and catchers reported.
That's right. The Cubbies opened up camp on Wednesday.
Yep.
But there's still a lot of questions to be answered. You still have at least 4 big free agents that are still unsigned, and oddly enough, they're all represented by the same person.
Yep.
Because you got the reigning Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell.
Yep.
You have the reigning comeback player of the year Cody Bellinger.
Yep.
You have a guy that helped with a postseason run, cemented himself as a solid starter in Jordan Montgomery. And you have a Gold Glove third baseman in Matt Chapman.
Okay, let's sign them all.
Big name guys that haven't.
Sign them all, Rich. Sign them all.
So because those big free agents are still out there, I think it's still too early to talk about which teams improved the most.
Right. Or our conceptual power rankings for baseball, any of it.
Yeah.
You can't do any of it right now because there are 4 guys that could completely change the outcome of the season.
Or how you would perceive, or just from a Cubs perspective, whether you re-sign Bellinger or grab one of those other 3 guys, that could change your entire opinion of how we thought the Cubs offseason went.
Yep.
So we're not going to grade the Cubs on what they have done. At least we're going to try and wait till
we have answers.
Yeah, to make those bring our opinions on that until as far as we can, as long as we can, because obviously we don't want to have to revisit the topic or walk back comments.
Yep.
That were
100%.
made. So our baseball preview is going to go as follows. The week of March 8th or 9th, we're just going to look at the Cubs. March 15 and 16, we're going to go with the division and wild card predictions. The 22nd and 23rd, the ALCS, NLCS predictions, and also give you a winner on who's going to win the Cubs opening day game. And then the final weekend in March, we're going to look at a World Series prediction and begin our weekly coverage of the Chicago Cubs.
Yep. Okay, with that, let's start talking football. Wait, what?
I'm back again.
Wait, we just talked football.
We did.
And we had a 15-minute timer.
We did.
But we're coming back for more football?
We might.
What kind of football?
The UFL, the Spring League.
Okay. Well, as we talk about that, where do you want to start with that, Rich? Do you want to do the merger details? Do you want to do the rules? Do you want to talk about which teams you want to follow? We got to talk about all of them. They don't start until March 30th, so we have some time to get some details, get some stuff figured out. I like the idea of what we did with the AAF by picking teams that they're who we want to watch each week. Let's do it. Let's do that again.
Okay, so we'll at least do that. So let's maybe hit the highlights of the merger details.
Yeah, okay.
So the UFL is what the combined league of the XFL and the USFL are calling their league.
Yep.
It's calling their league. So they are going to be split into 2 conferences, Mike.
The USFL and the XFL conferences.
Yes. So the USFL is going to bring back the Birmingham Stallions, the Houston Roughnecks, the Memphis Showboats, and the Michigan Panthers, while the XFL conference will be the Arlington Renegades, the DC Defenders, the San Antonio Brahmas, and the St. Louis Battlehawks.
So is 8 teams enough for football?
I think right now it is. I wouldn't, because you need to have a good enough player pool to make it happen. And besides, and I also like that there's I wish they were in more markets that don't have an NFL team.
Yeah.
But at least they are all playing in stadiums that aren't NFL stadiums.
Oh, so where are the Roughnecks?
Oh,
playing?
I'm sorry. The Roughnecks are in like a Rice Stadium,
Oh,
the
okay.
college stadium, and I think
Okay.
and well, I take that back. The Michigan Panthers do play at Ford Field.
And where do the DC Defenders play?
They play at the soccer stadium
Oh,
in
okay.
Washington D.C.
Hey, that's cool. I do find it a little weird that both Arlington and DC are both sites as though they're so close together. But
No, Arlington, Texas, Mike.
oh,
Arlington, Texas.
okay. So we have three
So you
teams
have
in
three-
Texas.
You do. You have 3 teams in Texas.
I mean, football is king in Texas. So
and I believe they're all going to be training in Texas.
okay. I mean that works. You know what? I think that here's what I wish they would do, and I don't know how many games they're playing. So let's get to that because I'm sure that's in the doc.
I don't know where it is. I thought they had I think they're playing enough games that they're going to play every team twice.
See, I don't like that. I mean, I think
So it's a balanced schedule for the most part.
what they should be doing is they should do let's do a 6-week schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Or a 6-week schedule. So you play each one of your conference games. You play 2 of those. You have 3 and you're home and away. So that in and of itself would be 6 games. So let's do I don't see why you don't do that. And then do it like what baseball used to do. No interleague play until the playoffs, until the championship. Do that. Make it 6 weeks. Yes, all you're going to see is XFL versus XFL and USFL versus USFL. But it's compact enough that that's all that it is. You don't need a ton. Here's the thing. With this with what it is, you do not need huge amounts. You need to get people, the joke that we've made every year is, are they going to make it to Memorial Day? Or is Memorial Day going to be a remembrance of the UFL? And if you play 10 weeks or whatever it's going to be, if you're playing each team twice, that is too long of a season for basically what we're trying to do about just getting teams to play. You just want it. You get us hooked with a 6-week season, and then you do one championship game. That's it. First couple of years. First couple of years, that's all you do. Why? Because we've just come off of football season. Rich, and I know your wife is awesome and loves watching football with you. My wife is awesome and loves.
Oh no, she does not like watching football as much.
Okay, so she doesn't want to watch football as much. Now you're telling her, oh, but the spring season started, so now we're going to watch 8 weeks of football. 10 weeks of football.
Exactly. Your comment to is how many of these players are actually going to make it to the NFL?
Right. And
not too many.
And so I think the best thing to do, make it short, make it sweet. Get it for the first few years. Yes, you can expand later. But if what you're doing right away is too much, you're not going to get the viewership. You're flooding the market on your viewership. Make it short, make it sweet. 6 weeks is more than enough. 6 weeks plus one playoff game. And the playoff game is the championship.
Yeah. So I am a little bit surprised that their training camp starts next week, but the games don't start until the 30th. So
that's not too far off.
I think I would have liked to. I mean, I know that you might want to try and get people
an opportunity
to see it, but I think they should have built off the momentum of right after being ads running on the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Or
give it 2 weeks and then come
2 weeks. 2 weeks to where even in the NFL playoffs, you're running ads. Hey, the NFL season doesn't end.
Football doesn't end
on this day.
Yeah.
we'll be back. Football will be back with the USFL on this date.
And then the week after the Super Bowl, you start your training camp, and you do 2 weeks of training camp. So 3 weeks after the Super Bowl, hey, you've been missing football? We're back.
Yep.
6 weeks. Just do 6 weeks because you're going to
have it end before training camps of the NFL.
Well, have it end before summer hits.
Even before the draft. Well, that'd be tough.
The draft would be tough. But have it end before summer hits. Because summer, now you're competing with the great weather outside. People don't want to be cooped up watching football.
Mm-hmm.
Do it quick. Make it short and sweet.
I am glad to see that they did go with just 8 teams because you don't want to have
you don't need another 32.
You don't need to have a 12-team league.
Yeah.
Or an 8-team league.
But if...
Well, I guess like a 12 or a
16. But if you leave it where it is now, do that, like I said, 6 weeks for the next few years,
mm-hmm.
and then immediately pop off and do... and then, hey, we can expand. We can expand. Now that people are fans of it, now that it's become a part of life in the coming years, then you can expand and say, okay, now we're going to add a team near you. And have a big fan vote. What city do you want us to come to? Let the fans vote.
Yep.
Get a team in Des Moines. Get the first professional football team in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, or go to Oklahoma.
Go to Oklahoma. Go
Nebraska.
to Kansas. Actual Kansas. Nebraska. Any of the Dakota. Like, why not? Go to those places. We don't need 3 teams in Texas.
You know, here's 2 markets, Mike.
Yeah.
Oakland and San Diego.
Oh, you'd have huge followings there. But instead, we have 3 Texas.
In existing, and maybe half the teams in existing markets.
Yep.
With the NFL.
Yep.
But that's the teams they decided to go with. Another week, Mike and I will pick what team we're going to kind of follow and recap from week to week.
And we'll do we'll tell you what the rules are next week.
They do have some unique, different rules.
And I like it. I actually do like some of the rules that they're doing. I think some of them are worth looking at and getting into. With that, Rich, let's go to our quick hits. State is Friday for Okoboji Esports. If you ordered shirts, shirts are done. Hats and the baseball caps and the stocking caps should be done Monday. Or hopefully by Monday, they'll be delivered to me. And then if you ordered for shipping, hopefully it goes out early this week.
Okay. So the big thing, Mike, with those orders being filled and done, will the team be able to go in with merch?
We should be able to go into state. We already have our normal shirts, and then we have this shirt. But this is the Super Smash Brothers shirt. Okay. But we should have our full black or maroon shirts and hats and all that stuff. Should be ready to go.
So
Friday.
Are you going to make the state? Are you going to make the kids decide? All right, are we going to wear maroon or are we going to wear black?
Nope. Just wear one of them.
No, you got to be uniform for me.
See, if we did uniform, then we do white because those are those are the uniforms that we had a team shirt made, and those were all white.
Okay.
Next year it's gonna be black, and I got what I think is a cool. I love our design this year too, but next year I think we got a better design. Not a better, just a different design that I'm really excited about too. So
gotcha.
Yeah. With that, Rich, do you have any shout outs for the week?
I don't think I have any shout outs this week.
Okay. I don't have any shout outs for the week either. So with that, let's.
I think that's it. So I think
that's it.
I think we can roll the outro, Mike.
Oh, man.
I know. As Mike's getting that up, if you're watching us here on Facebook and you want to take us on the road or listen to us at your convenience, you can find us out in podcast land, wherever you download your regular podcasts.
And it might be a couple days before I get it up.
Okay, Apple, Spotify, and Google,
YouTube.
Google, YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube
podcasts. Or you can check us on YouTube if you want to see the videos. If you want to participate in our poll questions or comment live on the show, you can do that on facebook.com/ballsandsticks, or the fan page, facebook.com/fans of balls and sticks.
All right.
Now, Rich, with that, what's it time to do?
Go ahead and roll that outro, and we'll talk with you next week.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and